All right, hello YouTube. So we are back. We are on to episode 3. Just got done watching it. This is my very raw reaction to it. We're gonna be going through the entire episode. I got a lot of notes, as you guys can see. I got about like 3 or 4 pages. I just wanted to make sure we got through a lot of stuff because a lot happens in this episode that I wanted to talk about on stream. A lot of things that I think we need to get to. This is a very weird episode for me because a lot of the other episodes have left me feeling really good about what happens. This episode, I think, is the first time in the series where, or I guess the series of House of the Dragon so far, that I came out with a couple question marks where I was like, I'm not sure if I like the direction of the entire episode. We're going to talk about that, I guess, a little bit later when we get done with actually talking about the episode as a whole. But I think they skipped a little too much ahead, and I think they missed a lot of opportunities with episode 3. How are you, Matthew? What was your thoughts on episode 3, Matthew? How did you like it? Hi, Jim. I hope you enjoy watching it tomorrow. Thanks for stopping in. But yeah, so it's going to be a little interesting on my review here because I came away feeling very mixed opinions on the episode. I liked a lot of it, especially the first 45 minutes. I really liked the episode. There were some things that I was a little annoyed with that we're going to talk about at the end. But I guess as a whole, I would say this is probably my... Oh, it's so difficult because I don't know if I would say this is my least favorite episode of the 3, but I would say this is the episode where I come out of it with a lot of questions on why they did certain things. But yeah, I'd say I'd probably give the episode still an 8 out of 10. I think 7, 8 out of 10. I think it was good. It was pretty good. I liked, if we're going off the first 45 minutes of the episode, I think I would have given this episode a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I really loved everything up until the Daemon Stepstones plotline. I thought it made a lot of sense. And then we got there, and I was like, okay, this is a really weird way of doing things. Young Wolf. Now, Quentin must be saying, no fair. Agreed. I liked it all the way up until the Stepstones. So I'm glad that me and you kind of agree on that, Matthew. I thought it was very odd the way they ended the episode. I thought that whole sequence at the Stepstones was really questionable. I think I want to get inside their head on why that was the direction they took the Stepstones. And for me, it's very disappointing because I thought we were going to see at least 2 episodes of the Stepstones. And they really sped through it really quick, and I just wasn't a fan of that. But we'll talk about that later on when we get there. I just want to give my reactions. Hi, Liam. How are you? Also, I wanted to say thank you guys for the support on last night's stream. I wasn't sure how that was going to go. Again, it was a Rings of Power. I wasn't sure how many people would want to see that on the channel. And also, it was the first time doing a stream where it wasn't just me. So I liked it and I didn't like it for certain things, right? So in that stream, I liked that we had a lot of different ideas, right? Where we had 3 different people on the stream. So if you weren't there for the Rings of Power stream, we really had 2 of my other friends who weren't as big into the lore of Rings of Power or Lord of the Rings. And I liked that dynamic where we had one person kind of coming at it from content, like purely on if you didn't know much about it, how would you like it? And then also going at it from other ways of just me who knows the more. I wouldn't say most, because I got a lot of things wrong in the stream when I look back on it, but I know a good amount of said lore. How are you, Glossy? And I cannot believe, okay, this is a major spoiler, but I cannot believe what happened in the Stepstones. It actually bothered me. Stepstones felt forced. I agree with you, Ian. I think it was... Yeah, I didn't like it. I can agree with that on Young Wolf. And honestly, the way that they're doing it, because the relationship with Criston Cole and Rhaenyra is much different in the show already than it is in the book. Well, because we don't know a lot of how the relationship happens. We just know that Criston Cole is put as her bodyguard. And that doesn't really... we don't really get a ton of information on the relationship. Here it makes a lot more sense. Rhaenyra is 17, and Kristen Cole is a good-looking guy, and Kristen Cole saves her life basically. So you can definitely feel that idea, and the way they're setting it up with Viserys telling her, "Hey, you can choose your own person." It makes me feel like yes, they're gonna go that route, but I'm happy they developed it because in the book, I don't think it makes as much sense for Rhaenyra to go to Kristen Cole. In the show, I think it makes a lot more sense for that way to go with it. I don't like that idea for me because I'm a Rhaenyra fan, and I kind of like some of the other things that happen, but I agree, Matthew. I agree. I really dislike the way they handled the Stepstones. And there's something else I'm going to talk about, but let me get into. I'm going to start with my notes, right? And I will say, I think the opening scene with Daemon and Caraxes was fantastic. It showed a lot of what the Stepstones should have been. It's a very drawn-out war. It's a lot of guerrilla warfare. It reminds me a lot of kind of like Vietnam in the American War with the Vietnamese. It reminds me a lot of that. It's something that the dragons, their effects get very, very much minimalized. Okay, but can we talk about the White Hart appearing in front of Rhaenyra? She is the one true king. Exactly, Glossy. Exactly. I see that you changed your profile picture, by the way. Hated the plot armor with Daemon. Yes. So when I was watching the scene, I felt a lot like Jon Snow. Not even season 8. Jon Snow at the Battle of the Bastards, where there's all these arrows coming down and they're just not hitting Jon when in reality they probably would. I felt a lot like that, Ian, so I can definitely see what you're talking about there. We know. Well, hold on, Young Wolf. Hold on. Rhaenyra, the actress that plays Rhaenyra, is literally 3 months apart from me. So again, I have a shot. That's all I'm gonna say. I actually really like the opening scene. I think it was a good introduction to the Stepstones and what it should have been, and shows kind of that the dragons are not invincible, and Daemon as a whole was not invincible. But they kind of counteracted that with the last shot or the last scene. So that scene definitely kind of gets hurt because of what they do towards the end of the episode. Moving on, we skip then to King's Landing, and Aegon II has not only already been born, he's already 2 years old. So this was another one thing I had an issue with. I get why they did the 3-year gap or time skip, but we miss not only Alicent and Viserys' wedding, we miss Aegon's birth, and we're already on basically Alicent's second child being born. There seems like we missed a lot of time, and I was expecting we were going to get in this episode some sort of conversation with Alicent and Rhaenyra talking about what the fuck just happened, right? And they're just no, I don't know. Like, that kind of seemed off to me. I get why they have to do the skip, but I thought with this episode, what we were going to get is we were going to get some stuff in the Stepstones, build it up a bit more, and then kind of have the skip going into episode 4. They didn't do that, and I think they kicked up the pacing even more, and I dislike that in this episode. But then, I don't know, it's weird. I didn't like the plot armor, but it was definitely better than Jon's since he was running with a bunch of debris around. That's correct. I think it was sort of representing his recklessness. I mean, I do think it was representing his recklessness, especially in the first and last scene. But they could have done it in a better way, in my opinion, right? That didn't feel as bad. Maybe he has Valyrian steel armor like Euron. Possible, I guess. It's possible. Totally forgot that just made it a 7 out of 10. Yeah. There were some things I didn't like that they did the time skip. I thought they were going to save it for next episode, but they did not. So I wasn't a fan of that, but I did want to bring that up. And now the scene also, I think, shows kind of how incompetent Viserys is. Viserys is very much just neglecting his duties. He constantly says in this episode to Rhaenyra, you need to be doing more stuff. You need to be more responsible. But then if we look at Daemon, he's neglecting the Stepstones, which is a major thing, right? We talked about it last episode. It was set up very hard in episode 2, and he's just like, it can wait, right? This war has been going on for this long, and he's done nothing. And we see how he's not even able to really read the room, right? Like, all these people are basically trying to manipulate him, and he just kind of doesn't pick up on any of these things, right? And it's something that's going to keep playing on, and I do think Viserys has a good character arc in this. I think he's had a good character arc in every episode, to be fair, but I think he really struggled in this episode to kind of figure some things out, as we see with his drinking. Gave me a lot of Robert Baratheon kind of vibes, and there's a parallel I'm going to bring up later on with the kind of stags that they're kind of hunting. Daemon for the win. Daemon did win, I will say that. I really didn't like this episode. Billy Bob, I'm kind of the same way. I liked it's such a hard episode for me because I like a lot of the individual scenes, but I don't like certain things they did with the stepstones, and then also with things like the time skip. Those are two of my biggest complaints of the episode. Am I the only one more how do you even say that word? I don't know how to say that word, Ashley. I'm not that smart. By the deer being slain and then the innards being exposed. I think that's fair, to be honest. Because Otto is manipulating him not to help. Yes, I know, because he doesn't like Daemon and all that stuff. But it's just Viserys is just really dumb in the way he's handling that. I think he did look a bit older, but that makes sense. It is 3 years now, and we know he has that kind of infection type thing on his hand, so. I did not fully understand why Daemon was upset. Can't you explain that? Was it solely based on the low troop counting? So, no. Daemon was upset because Daemon wanted to win this war by himself, or with, just the Velaryons. That's why he, is so rash directly after getting the news. Daemon did not want any of his glory being stolen by Viserys and his brother. Like, think about how this would play, right? So, if Viserys or Daemon, right? The situation is he can't win. If he can only win when his brother helps him, all of the glory is going to go to Viserys. So that is why he gets upset. Now, I didn't like that Daemon basically tries to kill the dude, but because that just doesn't seem like Daemon's character, in my opinion. But yeah. This one felt underwhelming. I don't think it was well, okay, I think it was underwhelming in the way they did the stepstones. I think it's moving too fast, in my opinion. They made his hairline recede, yes. Yes, 2K soldier seemed like a lot. It was poorly explained why he beat that message. So I think what I kind of explained is more or less why. But yeah, 2K soldiers is a lot of soldiers in that context. It's 2 years because they said Rhaenyra is 17? Oh, okay. Makes sense. I just assumed it was 3 years. Wait. Okay, wait. Hold on. See, I have a question then. How would it be 2 years? Because Aegon is turning 2, and they just got married, so you would have had 9 months for... No, it has to be 3 years. It has to. Unless... I don't know. I'm assuming it's 3. It has to be. The Rhaenyra making up for Viserys' mistake by marrying Laenor feels a lot like Edmure making up for Robb's mistake by marrying Rosalind. That's fair. I already like Laenor. I do too. I think they introduced his character pretty well. Agreed, Matthew. Agreed. We could probably do bracket live streams. Yeah, so actually I have an idea, guys. Don't put your comments in now because I'm not gonna have time to like screenshot them all, but I think I'm gonna do one where I'm gonna do like a bracket of the best scenes from Game of Thrones. No problem, Ian. Yeah, so that's what I thought, Glossy, because that wouldn't make any sense because Aegon's turning 2, and then also you have the 9 months of being pregnant. Agreed. Matthew agreed. I think if Daemon would have just slapped him or something, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. But dude, Daemon beating him basically to death, that doesn't make any sense to me. Um, yeah, agreed, Ashley. That was the most disappointing. And my thing was like, because I thought they were going to draw the Stepstones out a bit more, I thought we might actually get more of his character. And we didn't, which I thought was really weird. Like, it's fine if we don't get him, but killing him off screen? Like, okay. Yes, but Billy Bob, she could just be about to turn 18 or something like that. Because it can't, it literally can't be 2 years, Billy Bob. Like, you understand what we're trying to say? So, like, if Viserys and Alicent, they bang right away, right? First time he gets her pregnant. This now takes 9 months for her to then have Aegon. Then Aegon is now 2 years old at the time of the show taking back up. That is now 2 years and 9 months. So at the very least, it is 2 years and 9 months. At the very least. If they had their way, they would have set the stag loose when Viserys was about to stab it. Yeah. Agreed, Glossy. You should do Best Battles, A Song of Ice and Fire. I could do that. I don't... If it's just the main story, there actually probably wouldn't be that many battles. Thank you for the donation, Ian. I appreciate it. Guys, I swear I'm gonna get the super chat / donation like notification to work. I haven't had time. I've been overwhelmed with Rings of Power and House of the Dragon. The only thing I can say, but thank you, Ian. I appreciate the donation. The only thing I can say is I'm glad we got to see another. Agreed. I think that was really cool. What's your favorite group or characters from A Song of Ice and Fire or GOT? I would probably say the Targaryens, just in general. Okay. So, if we're talking about the main story, it's not the Targaryens. If we're talking about the main stories, it's probably the Baratheon camp, so like Stannis' camp. But if we're talking like just generally, I would say the Targaryens. I think they have a really cool history. Seasmoke, I believe, is Laenar's, right? I think so, Matthew. Again, I'm not great with the dragons. That's one reason I was kind of thinking about doing that Dragon Explained video on the poll, is because I kind of want to research them a bit more. I don't know the dragons well. Mine's the Bregman is a good one. There's a lot of off-screen battles and stuff about. That's true. There are. Okay, let me get back into talking more about the episode, because we got a lot to get through. So the next, another thing, so Rhaenyra and Alicent, they have this scene where Rhaenyra is telling the singer to constantly, sing the same song or whatever, and Alicent's like, kind of like, Rhaenyra, you need to come to this thing, your father wants you there, and it seems really awkward, right? And the one thing I don't understand why we didn't get is, why didn't we get a conversation between Rhaenyra and Alicent about what kind of took place here, right? Like, Alicent, and Rhaenyra, right? They were really good friends, and then all of a sudden, like, out of nowhere, Alicent gets married to your dad, and we just haven't had a conversation there, which I thought was so weird, right? But I thought this was a good conversation where Rhaenyra is basically asserting, Alicent, you are not the boss of me, and yeah, right? So then Viserys kind of wants her there, orders her to be there, and I think that was a good scene, and that leads into another great scene. So I have some notes down, because I want to specifically remember this, right? So we get this family scene, and we specifically get the line, and this line is that no one is here for me. And that is a very common theme for Rhaenyra throughout the entire episode, right? Where Rhaenyra feels like Aegon is going to be made the heir. Everyone's saying it. Everyone's thinking it. Viserys isn't really denying it. And Rhaenyra is being pushed to the side. She just doesn't feel like anyone's really here for her anymore. The only time people are actually talking to her or want anything to do with her is because they're trying to get her position, right? They're trying to marry into the Targaryens or this or that, like Jason Lannister does. And it is really a compelling arc. Something that I think Rings of Power is very much lacking is a character like that, where they have a really interesting arc. And Ashley, because I just glanced at chat, brings up a great point. Alicent and Rhaenyra are a lot like Sansa and Arya, right? And that's something we've continued to talk about on the channel, is how those two characters seem like those two, right? Arya seems like the rebellious one, the one that doesn't want to get married, doesn't want to do all these things. It's very ladylike. that's a lot like Rhaenyra in the show, and Sansa is a lot like Alicent in the show, right? So it is interesting the way that kind of works out. And Rhaenyra, we see why her and Criston Cole start to have such a connection, because Criston Cole is someone that's never been looked at, right? Criston Cole is from a very minor house. He is someone that Rhaenyra can relate with. And something we see a lot with Rhaenyra, I think, in this episode, is that the common people seem to respect and like Rhaenyra more than they kind of do with Alicent and even Viserys to a degree, which I think is something that's very interesting. Like when we see Rhaenyra later in the episode, when she brings kind of the boar back with Criston Cole, a lot of people are like giving her like respect, you know, smiling at her and stuff like that, which is really cool. I think it's a really good dynamic between her and Alicent. I want to see Rhaenys on Meleis. We don't get to see enough of her, period, but I want to see her on Dragonback before. Yes. So this is my okay, it's not my biggest, but it's one of my biggest complaints. The first 2 episodes, we hardly see Rhaenys at all, right? Has in the entire 3 episodes now, I think she has maybe 3 or 4 scenes in which she's talking, which is a shame because she's such a intriguing character. Every time she's been on screen, I've been generally interested in her character. And we got a whole episode where she isn't present, and I just thought that was really disappointing because I want more of Rhaenys, and I just don't know like how much they're willing to, because right now it seems like they're very much willing to sideline her character. What's your favorite minor house? That's a tough one, because in the main story, like A Song of Ice and Fire, I would say the Velaryons, because they're very much a minor house at that point. But let me think. What is a good minor house that I kind of like? I kind of like the I'm trying to think of a good minor house though. I kind of like the Brackens. I think they're pretty cool. I'll go with them. Lannisters between Cersei, Jaime, and Tyrion is the ultimate combo. Agreed. It was like when Sansa told Arya to ride in the royal. Yes, agreed. It was exactly like that. Dickon Manwoody is my king. Oh boy, that scene of yeah, I saw that already. Let's stick the episode, Liam. We got a lot of we do have a lot of shit to break down, and mine is Dane. That's a good one. Yeah. So let's continue on. And Rhaenyra, I made a specific note here. Rhaenyra very much feels alone and forgotten, right? She very much feels, I feel like a lot of probably children feel like. So if you're like let's say you're a middle child, that's kind of how Rhaenyra feels, where she's not like she's not the child getting the attention. She's not the child that everyone's looking at their achievements. She's just kind of there. That's kind of how Rhaenyra feels in this situation. I mean, okay, Billy Bob, let me put it this way. I like the Blackwoods and the Brackens. They're kind of dynamic. I like those two. Now, something else that I think is interesting, we get introduced into Lars Strong, and also kind of the Green Council, right? Because what we're seeing is kind of we're seeing kind of the prelude to how Alicent kind of forms her political basis later on when we see the dynamic between Rhaenyra and Alicent. We kind of see kind of foreshadowing into what the Green Council will kind of eventually be. Anything else I want to talk about on this page of notes? We have Jason Lannister meeting Rhaenyra. This was obvious that he was trying to court her. Even when, like, before it gets revealed, that's what he was trying to do. It seemed pretty obvious. And Rhaenyra, I feel like, acts how most people would act in the situation, where it's just like, okay, you're only talking to me because yeah. Like, I feel like we all kind of understand it. Jason Lannister kind of seems like he's not a great dude. He seems very fuckboyish, you know? That's how I describe him. He doesn't seem like a great guy, right? And this kind of sparks the main conflict within the episode, is that Rhaenyra is not really making any of her own choices. And I'm going to revert this back to Viserys. Viserys is someone that is not making their own choices, right? And she or sorry, hold on. I kind of lost train of thought because I was looking at chat. But Viserys is someone that never makes any choices. He is someone that is pretty much manipulated the entire time. He has everybody else making decisions for him. And he finally gets to his second marriage and decides to say, fuck it. Right? I'm just going to go for Alicent. Right? And this is something that I think is interesting because Rhaenyra calls him out on his bullshit later on in the episode. And it was something that very much made me frustrated for Rhaenyra because Rhaenyra is being told by her father, you need to do this, you need to be responsible, you need to marry this person or who, you know, whatever. And meanwhile, it's like, Viserys, you're being kind of contradictory to yourself because you did the exact opposite. Everyone in your council was telling you, marry this person, and you went and married Alicent with literally no one's advice or anything. And it's like, yeah, so that kind of was interesting to me, that Viserys kind of thinks that way. And again, he eventually kind of reverts on that towards the end of the episode, but that was something that I took out of that idea. And this is something that I think, this is another big idea that I wanted to talk about in the stream, is this is a huge change with Rhaenyra and who she's going to marry. In the books, they have this kind of council meeting, and no one really gives an option of who Rhaenyra should marry. There's one option given. They're like, hey, and this comes specifically from the Maester, Rhaenyra should marry Laenor Velaryon. And then we get context that literally they're like, wait, everybody in the room's like, Laenor's doesn't really like women, right? And they're all just like, Rhaenyra's gonna suck it up, and they force Rhaenyra to marry him. That is a big Maester conspiracy idea right there that they eliminated from the show. So I was really interested to see how that was going to be kind of handled, and they've not gone the Maester route. So for the Maester conspiracy video that I'm probably going to do this week, because that's what you guys wanted to see, probably going to use that. But I thought that was interesting that they're giving Rhaenyra an option to pick, and also that, you know, other people were like asked to be with Rhaenyra. So Viserys tries to set her up with the Lannisters and all these other ideas. And that there's an idea, well, hey, you know, she could wait for Aegon II. All right. Definitely made my screen. Okay. I just hope that doesn't become a kind of constant line, though. No one is ever there for me. I want to see her take action and evolve instead of just constantly saying that line. Agreed. And I think she will. I thought the singer at the start was Joffrey Lonmouth. Yeah. Also, Viserys sarcastically talking to Lionel about how his son Harwin should marry Rhaenyra. Yeah, that was a funny line to me. Hey, Grease, are we going to see Darth Maul arc now for the crab feeder? No, the crab feeder is gone. I very much don't think they actually cared about that character that much. But, yeah. Didn't Lionel say that? Yes, Lionel did say that, yeah. Otto tries to convince Viserys to betroth Rhaenyra and Aegon. Yes, that was a very weird. It was a very weird conversation, but at the same time, like, Otto has a point. Like, it's the exact same idea that happened last episode, right? Where it's like, oh, well, Viserys should marry Laena, right? Even though there is a big age difference, that would be the best match. This is the best match, really. Like, if Rhaenyra like waits maybe, you know, a couple years, right? She'd be pretty old at this point, right? She'd probably be like 30 by the time Aegon was ready to be married. You would kind of fix the entire idea of having a civil war because you would unite both the lines. But I don't know. It is an interesting idea, though. It's interesting because doesn't Alicent suggest that to Billy Bob? I don't think so. I think it's just Otto. I don't think Alicent suggests it. I like seeing Vaemon, yeah. At some point in the books, yes. At some point in the books, it does happen. Was it grayscale? Who knows, Ian? It kind of looked like it, but at the same time, we'll never know because it didn't really go into his character at all. I found Viserys' reaction to that was funny. He just turned 2, maybe chuckle. Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that Alicent does suggest that in Fire and Blood. At some point. I'm pretty sure she does. Could be wrong, though. I know that, like, when they actually have the meeting, the only person that's brought up is Laenor. Now, I know, like, in the backgrounds, there's a rumor that possibly Alicent did try to kind of reunite the lines, basically. The writers said it was grayscale. Well, it's kind of interesting that Daemon's basically carrying around, like, his upper half, then, if he had grayscale. That's kind of awkward. But, yeah. Typical Alabama conversation, yeah. That is correct, Billy Bob. I'm not going to say that just for people that don't want to be spoiled, but yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Ashley. So I don't know if grayscale makes sense in that context. All right, let's continue on. So then we have Rhaenyra. She runs off. She wasn't, you know, happy with what ends up happening, with basically her feeling that Viserys is trying to basically sell her like a sheep, and that she's losing kind of her position. So she runs off basically with her horse, and Criston Cole follows her because he is her personal guard, basically. They have some nice scenes, you know, and I think they had some good chemistry together. I really bought kind of their relationship and what they were talking about. We see some more kind of Rhaenyra's insecurities, and she opens up to Criston Cole a bit more, which is something we don't see her do, right? Rhaenyra's constant thing here is that she doesn't really have anyone, right? If we look at all these characters, they kind of have someone, and she finally has someone where I feel like she opens up. I think that was really great, but we'll get back to their scene a little bit later. So Viserys kind of starts this kind of hunt or whatever, and there's this whole idea that there's this kind of white hare. I'm just going to call it a stag, but white stag, basically. And Viserys is going to kill it in honor of Aegon. Now, what I think is interesting here is that the white stag actually ends up evading them. And they constantly make this reference that the white stag is the king of the Kingswood. So how the way I took this and what I really liked, right, is that this is kind of subtle foreshadowing to when Robert Baratheon and the Stags are going to eventually take the throne from the Targaryens. I thought that was a really cool little wink. It wasn't something that, like, it was in your face, but it's something where it's like, okay, I kind of see where they were going with that. I like that. I thought that was really good. Okay, let me go back up. Let me read some comments. Ryan Connell said that. Okay, that doesn't make any sense then. Like that doesn't make, like, it makes sense that he would have grayscale, but it doesn't make sense of why Daemon's touching him with his bare hand and stuff like that. I don't know. That whole idea just I like how they mentioned, yes. Hey, what happens? The red keeps stay. That's true. I love how they had Hobart kind of dig at Otto for not pushing Aegon the Second enough. Just shows that Otto, while being hand, is still in the second. Yeah, that was something I thought was really interesting too that I forgot to mention. Is that it is interesting that Otto isn't really the person, like, in charge. You know, his brother is the one that's, you know, like, kind of like, hey, Otto, you need to get us on the throne, and you got to do it a little bit quicker. It's interesting to see that dynamic where we always see Otto kind of being the one to say that stuff to Alicent. So I did think that was a really interesting piece that we did get to see. Okay, there was another comment up here that I saw about Rhaenys. I think it was by Glossy, but I can't. Where was this comment? Did I miss a comment? Hold on. Glossy, did you comment something? I swear you. Okay. Gonna be a contrarian and say Rhaenys is not very relevant to what was happening in this episode, and they already had so much to cover too. I agree, but I also disagree. Like, I think we could have seen her. With how much they've kind of changed events already, I think we could have just gotten to see her a bit more. Because I think she is a good politician for the most part and is a good, insightful character for the most part. All Rhaenyra has to do is become a man. It's easy. Yes. See how well it worked for Galadriel? Like, just do that. They need more ball jokes. God, please stop. Lots of focus on character motivations and own self-interest. I really love how fleshed out. Yes. So that is something that I really like about what they're doing with the characters in King's Landing. That they're really focusing on making these characters, you either really like them, you really hate them, or you're kind of middle. So when shit starts to hit the fan, you guys, people are going to be a lot more attached to these characters and motivations and understanding why things happen the way they do. Just finished the episode. Can't wait for the new one. I've never read the books, but I watched Game of Thrones. Well, I'm happy you're enjoying it. I think it is a fantastic time period they're going to be doing in the show, and I can't wait to see how you're going to react to a lot of the twists and turns of the show that are going to be happening. It's like Red Wedding levels of shock value. So, agreed, House Stag. I also like how Otto is explaining to Alicent on why Aegon should be king, even if she was a second Jaehaerys, even though we all know he just wants his grandson to be king. Agreed. I can't wait for Aegon's crown come into play way later on. Hopefully they make it look right. Aegon, yes, agreed. I also found it kind of weird that Viserys is almost never wearing a crown, but yes, I know not Alicent's Aegon. I know Aegon the Conqueror because that's the crown he ends up kind of using. I thought the stag was referencing the story Cersei tells Tommen on the throne during the Battle of the Blackwater. That also. I hope they don't rush the series like GOT. I also am worrying about that Silver Souls because I know you're someone that's not read Fire and Blood, but they are very much going fast. Like, the events that happened in this episode, I didn't even think we were going to see. I thought the ending of certain plots were not going to happen until episode 4. So that did scare me a little, and I am a bit worried about how they are setting the pace. But I don't know. It's better than Rings of Power, so. But yeah. Then we have a bunch of scenes with kind of the succession and how Jason Lannister thought that it was going to be Aegon II, how a lot of people feel that way. I really like that Viserys stands up for Rhaenyra here publicly, and all of that. I thought that was really good. So we just don't see Viserys being very set in his own ways very often, so I thought that was a really good scene. We see again another Otto scene trying to manipulate, who Rhaenyra should marry. We also have a great callback to Jaehaerys, which I thought was really cool, where it's like Jaehaerys, his big weakness in his entire reign was not that he couldn't keep peace, not the politics, not this. I think like you have is sometimes managing children is the hardest thing because you want them to be one thing, but they turn out to be something else, and it's not really who they are. Ned kind of found that out in the main story, but I thought that was a really cool callback and shows that they were doing their homework at least. Him not wearing a crown has to do with how stupid Hollywood. Yeah, that's true. That's how Game of Thrones was as well. Like Robb never wears a crown, which I thought was stupid because he has a really cool crown in I meant Robb Stark, not Robert Baratheon. But Robb Stark has a really cool crown that I would have liked to see. We never really see it. I think once Rhaenyra becomes older, the pace will slow down. I think so. I think it will too, because I think what they're doing is they're trying to get to the exciting points. They're trying to get to stuff that happens, and I think they're a bit scared, right? I think they're a bit scared that if they take too much time in the early parts of Rhaenyra and Alicent's life, that audiences are going to get bored. So I think that is, you're probably right on that. Okay, I'm going to continue. We talked about a lot of this already with Lord Strong suggesting Laenor and Rhaenyra. We talked about that a little bit already. I think we had a really cool scene with Rhaenyra and Kristen Cole right before the boar happens, where Rhaenyra kind of asks straight up to Kristen Cole, will people basically follow me, and can I ever be queen? And Kristen Cole, I think, honestly believes that Rhaenyra could be queen. And it's interesting, and it kind of makes the relationship between the two, when things do eventually happen, even more, almost like it just hurts even more when things eventually happen with the two. But I thought that was a really great scene. And then we get the boar scene, and all that happens. Kristen Cole kills it, and then we see a little bit of Rhaenyra's anger and some of her issues, and she takes it out on this boar. I mean, she gets going on that thing. So that was a pretty cool scene as well. Yeah, they're just trying to get the main events. Agreed. Daemon committed a war crime by faking a surrender. I mean, to be fair, the crab feeder is literally feeding people to crabs, so it's 6 kingdoms, not fucking 7. Agreed. I like the conflict brewing between Vaemon and Corlys. Agreed. There's no war crimes and what. That's true. Liam, you just need to stop. You need to stop. But if I'm going to answer your question, Rhaenyra. Yeah, but that kind of suits his character, him breaking the law of war. He is the rogue. Agreed. Also, Oberyn is a great dad. Okay, now, let's continue. Now, I think one of the best scenes of the entire episode is Viserys talking to Alicent at the fire. And he's very drunk at this point, but we see a lot more of what's driving him, right? He kind of explains why he made Rhaenyra the heir over Daemon, and it's kind of what we suspected. It was never because he actually wanted Rhaenyra to succeed him. It's because of he felt guilty about Rhaenyra's mother, because he had this idea, and we get into the visions and prophecy right here. So maybe we'll have to make a video on that. But that he was going to have this son. Now we know this son is going to be Aegon II. And he was pushing his wife to have a son because he believed it was going to happen. And that ends up killing her. So he always felt responsible or guilt that he needed to make it up to Rhaenyra. And so he maims her heir. And also Daemon was creating problems. So he never really did it for Rhaenyra. Like, he never really believed in Rhaenyra. That's kind of what I got out of it, which I thought was an interesting insight into Viserys' character. And he kind of goes back on that towards the end of the episode, where we see where he's like, yeah, I believe in you, Rhaenyra. You are the heir. And he kind of falters for a second. So I thought that was some really good characterization with Viserys. And I thought that was probably a top 3 to 4 scene when it's in this episode for Viserys. Or not just Viserys for the whole episode, you know. I talked about the White Stag and kind of how I not foreshadowed, but I kind of talked about how it's similar to what happens with Robert's Rebellion and all that stuff. Now the stag death. This is something that I also felt interesting. The stag's death, where really Viserys does nothing. He just goes up and just stabs the thing. It felt a lot like Viserys, right? Viserys is the one that I feel like he feels like he's being held by all these different people, and he's just being stabbed, right? This person wants this. This person wants that. They want me to do this. They want me to do that. I lose my wife. I lose my child. My daughter doesn't like me. He feels like he's on strings, right? So no matter what decision he makes, it always kind of fails. It pisses someone off. He even talks about that in the episode. So I think the stag could represent Viserys and how his reign is kind of going, where everything is kind of being manipulated, right? So I thought that was interesting. I like how Rhaenyra kills the boar and Daemon kills the crab eater, but Viserys needs to be told how to kill a stag that is tied up. Agreed. I think Viserys knew how to kill the stag. I just think Viserys in the moment was just like, this feels wrong. Like, we just have a stag tied up and I'm supposed to kill it. And it's supposed to be this big thing where, oh, I'm so good. I'm such a bold king. It's like all Viserys did is go up and stab something. Like that's it. Like, you know, yeah. So Ian, yes, that's kind of how I took it. That Rhaenyra is trying to kind of prove a point, right? That she's kind of a badass. Like her and Kristen Cole, they were all fucking slaying a boar, just the two of them, and she's willing to get down and dirty and work for what she wants. Oh, more war councils with Daemon. I thought we were gonna get that Lehman, or not Lehman, Liam. I thought we were gonna get a lot more of that. I thought we were gonna get the Stepstones for like a good 2 episodes, and we are gonna see a lot of that, but we just didn't, which I thought was very disappointing. Tywin didn't do anything. Walder gets all the credit or blame. It all goes to Walder Frey. Agreed. 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 This okay. The boar was basically already dead, but Rhaenyra wanted to stab the shit out of it. Also Rhaenyra not allowing the white stag to be killed while the lords are all wanting it to kill it just for fun. We see how she can be the ruthless when she has to be with the killing of the. Agreed. That's a great parallel of who Rhaenyra is, right? Rhaenyra is someone that can be brutal, but she can also be very kind, and she can also be very caring. Also, there's no way in fuck Kristen Cole was going to kill that white stag. I mean, the dude had a sword. That stag was going to be gone, but I think it's more of like he didn't, like Rhaenyra made it to where he didn't even try, right? Because there's no way in hell. But yeah. Yes or yep symbolism? Yep. 100% she went to town on it. I couldn't watch that scene. The cries were just too much. Agreed. It was a very brutal scene. All right, you guys are talking about the phrase, of course. Also, guys, I want to say the background is going to be changed soon. I have everything except for my Westeros map that's going to come in. I'm going to have it framed. But besides that, the background shall be changing soon. Hopefully, I'm going to put in some shelves so you guys can see the little YouTube plaque I made myself. And some other things. So I'm excited about that. Let's continue. We're almost done. We got about a page left. Let's see, what else we have? I already talked about Viserys' reign with the stag. We have the white stag scene, which we kind of talked about. Anything else here? Talked about the common folk tend to respect Rhaenyra more than kind of Alicent and Viserys. And then we kind of get the Otto and Alicent scene where they're together. So this scene's another great scene where it's kind of Otto kind of explaining not only to Alicent, but kind of the audience what's going to happen. Like, Otto is basically saying to the audience and Alicent that no matter what happens next, Aegon II is going to get on that throne. Whether we start a war, whether whatever happens, right? It's going to happen. Okay, that's what Otto is basically telling her, and he's basically telling her, maybe you should whisper in his ear and talk about some things, see if he should do something, right? I didn't think Laenor was old enough to fight in the Stepstones War. What age is he supposed to be in the show? I think he's around 16 or 17, I believe. Did they make Laenor older than Laena? I think in the show they did, yeah. Because Laena was 12, so she would now be 15 or 14. She like just turning 15, or she's actually 15 now. So yes, I'm pretty sure they did. All right, let's move on. We then have the Alicent and Viserys scene. We get a pretty good scene, actually. Like, Alicent is actually being very helpful to Viserys and doesn't even really bring up the whole succession, right? She doesn't even do that, which is what her father wanted her to do. But she's actually being very helpful here in the situation. She's kind of simplifying things for Viserys, going, hey, Viserys, your brother's in need. He could die, and you're sitting on your ass doing nothing, right? And this crab feeder dude is a very big threat to the supply lines in Westeros. Do something. Right? Do something. Matthew Crook says, where is baby Sunfire? We didn't get to see a baby dragon. Agreed. I was very disappointed we didn't get to see Aegon's birth or anything like that. They skipped it, which I thought was kind of weird, but yeah. especially when Aegon is such a major character. So at the end, what I'm getting is Daemon's pride pretty much made him go all in to win. Yes, that is basically what ends up happening there, because he wanted all of the glory for himself. He didn't want his brother to get that glory, because if you remember why this war was started was for Daemon to get the respect that he deserves and all of that ideas, and he didn't want his victory to be because of getting forces from King's Landing. That's old enough for Westerosi standards. Oh boy. Is the next episode going to have Aemond and Helaena? With the pacing of the show, I wouldn't be surprised, but I think there's a possibility we see one of them. I think Sunfire already been born. Aegon just claims him. No, Young Wolf, I didn't want to specifically see Alicent give birth, but I wanted to see, like, Aegon, like, you know, in his crypt or something like that. You know, like, it is a major event, right? And there was so much you could have done with it, with, like, Rhaenyra's reaction directly after Aegon is born. And things like that. So, yes. More or less yes, but no to that question. I didn't want to actually see Alicent, like, birthing her. Like, I didn't, you know, like, or birthing him, you know? So, Matthew thinks we'll see them in episode 5? Yeah. I don't know. But, yeah. All right. Moving on. We have Rhaenyra and Viserys. I think this is probably my favorite scene in the entire episode, because we see how Viserys kind of understands Rhaenyra a bit better, and this is a huge change. When I mean huge, it's a huge change. Fire and Blood, like I've talked about, Rhaenyra doesn't get a choice. This is one of the biggest things that leads her to other people, right? And in the show, they've basically said, no, you know what, Rhaenyra, you can choose who you want to be with. And I thought that was really nice. I think it was a great scene between Viserys and Rhaenyra, and I think it's something that we needed to see, because it just, in this episode, we just got nobody, like, Alicent doesn't talk to Rhaenyra, Viserys doesn't really talk to Rhaenyra about what happened, and we still really don't know, you know, like, there's no conversation there. We had a little bit of it in the Rhaenyra and Viserys conversation, but, you know. Sorry, this is off topic. Will you be doing the same? Yes. So, Preston, I actually, if you want to rewatch it, I did a live stream with two of my friends yesterday, talking about Rings of Power. It was about an hour, 40 minutes, talking about the first and second episode. But yes, we will probably be doing it not the day of. We'll probably be doing it like on Fridays, probably. So the show is going to come out, I think, Thursday nights, like at midnight or something, and then we'll do a stream probably Friday nights. Mystery Junkie, I also had the same thought. I'm not sure what it was. Billy Bob. You know what, Billy Bob, you do whatever you want to do, you know? You're just a weird guy. So, at this point now, we head to the Stepstones. And this, to me, is where in my opinion, the episode just took a massive jump off a cliff. Like, so, why? Okay, my notepad's getting all messed up. I'm just going to set that to the side because I keep playing with it. But we see that the morale is pretty low, right? They only have like 700 soldiers-ish. They're running low on supplies. The war is not going well, right? And we have this little council, and we even start to think that they're going to turn on Daemon for a second. And then Daemon kind of comes in, and the plan is they need, like, one person, which, again, the whole plan doesn't really make sense to me. They need one person, or they need a certain amount of people to draw out the forces of the Crad Feeder, so that the dragons could then be useful because they wouldn't kind of be in the caves stuff or whatever, and all of that, because the dragons really are having no effect right now because they're kind of just staying in their little holes. And they're all like, oh, well, we don't have anybody crazy enough to do that. And then Daemon appears. The letter comes in from Viserys that he's sending aid, and Daemon's just like, you know what? I'm going in. You know, I'm going in, right? But the whole plan doesn't make sense to me. So, what if Daemon gets killed before he gets anywhere near where, like, at any point if Daemon dies, the plan fails, right? And, like, it is such a odd plan to me that it just doesn't make any sense. Because, like, in my opinion, right, the archers, right, they are apparently, the way they're framing it is that they're on top of this, like, hill cave thing at all times. Why the hell don't they just have the dragons, right? Because they have, I would assume, two of them, and just light up the entire top part of that hill, right? So now they have no archers. They have nothing there, right? And then just rush the holes. Because at this point, right, in a single file combat, right, your numbers don't really matter as much. It's more of your skill, and I would assume the Velaryons have more skill. It's just the way that they've looked at the war and all of that. So that whole plan felt odd. The entire like scene felt really weird, like very much plot armor. And then the way it's kind of concluded, where Daemon just walks past the battle, goes into the cave, and just off screen takes the crab feeder's like head or upper like part of his body and then just walks out, and then that's the end of the stepstones. And I'm just like, what? We've had like almost like a good amount of build up to this, and it was a 1 episode thing, and we didn't even see much of it. It was like 15 minutes of the episode, maybe. It was very underwhelming. It was very disappointing, and yeah, I just was that the first time Laenor rode Sea Smoke? I don't think so, Liam. I think he had rode him previously in the war, but I think that was the first time we saw it on screen. I think I'm going to like Laenor a lot better in the shows and the books. I agree, Ashley. I did not like him in the books. How could you be losing a war when your enemy is literally... That's my exact thought, Mystery Junkie. I think they did a terrible way of showing off that whole war. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I agree, Billy Bob. I don't think he was saying Jakar's right. It sounded really weird. I agree, Matthew, on your sentiment on Daemon and the crab feeder and the end of that. I agree, Mystery Junkie. That's true, Billy Bob, but the problem is, like, the way that they frame the war, right, is that they're just kind of sitting in this cave. Like, they don't have any ships. They're just kind of sitting on this island. So if you, theoretically, you would think the Velaryons can just blockade the stepstones. They can't get any resources to them, and they would have just died, right? I don't understand it. The next episode is called King of the Narrow Seas. Okay. All right. Laenor is Valyrian. That is correct. And half Targaryen. That is correct. He gets that through his mother, Rhaenys, who is also a Targaryen. I hated the off-screen fight. Yeah, agreed. I thought it was really bad the way it was handled at the end. You need Targaryen blood, and Quentin had some from farther. Yeah, Quentin's blood was like very distantly Targaryen, right? Whereas Laenor is literally half Targaryen. Like, his mother is legitimately a Targaryen. And then his father also has Targaryen blood. Or not Targaryen blood, but, you know, has Valyrian blood. Daemon would have killed Kragas and was... Yes, but we would have liked to see that, is the problem. There should have been a big naval battle that was the triarch's strength. Yes, agreed, because this is the whole problem. We've been talking about how the Velaryons have such a massive fleet, and they're so important and stuff like that. And we just don't see it. So then you're sitting here like, okay, well, isn't the island blockaded? How the hell are they getting any supplies? We don't see anything. So that was my problem there. That title is stupid. He's king of the Stepstones. Agreed. Agreed, Billy Bob. Agreed. I think it's King of the Stepstones and the Narrow Sea. Yeah, but I think it just makes more sense to just say the King of the Stepstones. I think that just makes more sense. Like it would build off of the last episode of what they did. But yeah, I think King of the Stepstones makes more sense. But yeah. Yeah, they kept hyping the Triarchy up, and the result was agreed. They just really didn't do a lot with that whole entire plot. Which to me is really unfortunate to me, but like we've talked about in this stream, they are trying to get to the main events, and I can't fault them for it. But I think if they give it more build up, those events are going to pay off a lot more. And also, I just really hate that they're making Daemon kind of like way more of a villain in the show than he is in the books. Like there's certain scenes that just, in my opinion, haven't been handled right. Like we go with the first episode with Daemon, where he has the gold cloaks. It very much seems like he's just beating up random people, even though there are like a person here saying that they're rapists, they're doing this, whatever. It seems a lot like how the Nazis would have done their stuff in World War II, where it's like they're just going into people's houses and just, doing stuff. It was really odd. This episode, we have Daemon beating a dude half to death for delivering a message. Like, I don't know. This just isn't the Daemon that I guess that I interpreted from the book series, or I guess Fire and Blood. It is their own interpretation, so I can't really give them a bunch of hate, I guess, but not a fan of the way that they've handled certain parts of Daemon's character up to this point. I like that they've given Daemon more of a personality. I like that they've shown his insecurities, his things like that, but there are certain elements to his character I just don't like that they're doing. The Triarchy in the books were a serious threat, but in the show, yeah, agreed. And also, I think it hurts Daemon because you're trying to establish what the Stepstones were, really, for Fire and Blood, was they were trying to show you how awesome of a commander Daemon and also Corlys Velaryon were as commanders, because they're outnumbered. Like when the war starts, they are outnumbered, and they end up kind of winning it, right? And in this, it doesn't really make Daemon or Corlys Velaryon or any of these look like they're great commanders or anything like that. It makes it look like they just got lucky, right? You know what, Billy Bob? That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. Daemon beat him up for saying 7 kingdoms. Maybe. I hate to say it, but I didn't like this episode much at all. It was a flop for me. So, Ashley, I don't think it's a flop for me. I think it's definitely out of the 3 after reflecting on it on stream. I think it's definitely the worst of the 3 episodes. Right. I think it was definitely the worst of the 3. And what's disappointing about it is that you had everything set up to have this be a really interesting plot, and you resolve it in one episode when this is an event that is a very significant part of the lead up to the Dance of Dragons, and it's very significant to Daemon and the Velaryon house as a whole, and they very much rushed it. It was very underwhelming. They wasted a lot of what could have been really cool about that story. So that, I think, definitely hurts this episode. I think the time skip hurt a lot. I know you guys are memeing on me because I'm saying I wanted to see Alicent giving birth to Aegon, but I meant it as more as like I wanted to see like a scene where it's like, oh, Alicent's about to give birth, and then we skip to it after it, and it's like, oh, Aegon the Second's here, baby Aegon, that's more what I meant. But you guys like to give me shit all the time, so that's fine. But there were certain elements I just didn't like about this episode. I don't think it's going to harm the series too much. Like, I think it did take away from Daemon and Corlys a little bit. But I think we'll be fine. I just, you know. Yeah, Matthew, that's kind of how I felt. I felt like going into it, right? Until we got to the Stepstones, I was willing to be like, wow, I really like this episode. I think it's better than the first two. And then the Stepstones happened, and I was just like, wow. They hyped up the battle on the promos and it didn't happen, or doesn't happen until the final 20 minutes of the episode, which is by way it was an extended episode. Agreed. Why would Rhaenyra choose Laenor? I don't think she's actually going to choose Laenor. I think what's going to end up happening is she chooses Kristen Cole or she chooses someone else. And what basically Viserys is going to be like, okay, this is a terrible match. Or maybe, right, Rhaenyra sleeps with like Harwin or something like that. And Viserys just goes, yeah, you're not making the decision then. I don't give a shit. And then he's going to be like, you're marrying her. Or you're marrying him, sorry. What you want is the bad cat? Jesus, don't start. Sarah's probably going to marry her to him after her scandal with Daemon. I don't think we're going to have that yet, Glossy. Maybe. That's possible, but, you know, maybe. I think she was forced to choose Laenor because she probably chose her. So in the book, and if we're talking about the book, she's not given an option. Like there's no Rhaenyra gets to choose. Viserys goes, Rhaenyra, you're marrying Laenor. Don't care what you say, because Rhaenyra literally says kind of her famous line is like, I think he would prefer like the knights or whatever. He would the boys basically than me. And yeah. I saw it in the trailer for next episode. All right, let's look up the trailer. Let's look at the trailer. We're gonna do a live reaction to the trailer then. I want to see what's in this trailer. I'm gonna have to I probably won't be able to actually turn the volume on for you guys because I'll probably get copyright. But let's look up. Hold on, is my volume off for OBS? For desktop? Yeah, okay. Let's look up House of the Dragon episode 4 trailer. All right. Headphones on, and I will give you guys a live reaction. Unmute it. Okay. All right. Okay, we have the Princess Promise and the dagger part. Talk about the Song of Ice and Fire. Oh, we see Viserys' crown. Love to see that. Hold on. Okay. So, is there anything else at the end of this? Nope. Okay. All right. So, I don't think that is what it actually meant, Glossy, on the... I think they framed it like that. But I think what they're probably saying is that Rhaenyra... that we're going to get the Kristen Cole thing next episode. Is what's going to happen, right? So it's going to be something happens probably between Rhaenyra and Kristen Cole. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. And then Rhaenyra maybe goes to Harbin Strong, right? So what's going to end up happening is someone finds out, which is Otto, and tells King Viserys. Viserys goes, okay, you fucked up. I'm gonna make your marriage now. More or less, that's what's gonna happen. Daemon's gonna be back. He got a fresh haircut as well, but he is gonna be back in King's Landing. He's gonna get kind of welcomed back, for being, the king of the Stepstones and all that, and doing well. But yeah. And he does, Matthew. He does. I think it's with Daemon because Alicent mentions how Rhaenyra isn't deceitful, but Daemon is. So this could maybe be referring to that Rhaenyra isn't trying to deceive anyone, right? That Rhaenyra maybe... I'm trying to think how they would do that. So maybe like Daemon could be the one spreading the rumors, right? So we get in the book with Mushroom that Daemon and Rhaenyra have some sort of relationship, right? And maybe it's because we get Daemon is the one saying these things that, oh yeah, like he lets it slip that, oh yeah, him and Rhaenyra are doing stuff, when in reality Rhaenyra is actually off with someone else. And so Alicent's saying that Daemon is the one that's lying about what happens and Rhaenyra is actually telling the truth. That's what I could see. Maybe that's the way that they take that, Glossy. Also, where the fuck is Mushroom? I don't think we'll see him, and if we see him, it'll probably be like a cameo. I don't think we're gonna see him. I've seen it. It seems okay. That being said, I thought, yeah, okay, I read that already. He got cut. Yeah, he didn't make the cut. Mushroom and Grease, best couple. Yep. Mushroom's pretty experienced, so I'd be willing to see it. What'd you guys think? What'd you guys think of the trailer? If you've watched it, it was a quick, about a minute trailer. It kind of focuses on Daemon is coming back to King's Landing and everything that's going to go on there. And kind of this idea that Rhaenyra is going to lose her option to choose who she wants to marry because something happens. Whether that's with Criston Cole and something with Harwin Strong, or maybe they go a Daemon route and she does do something with Daemon. I just don't see it happening though. I don't see Daemon and Rhaenyra happening until later. But it could happen. I don't know what route they want to go with on that. You would be lucky to get a man like Mushroom. That's correct. Mushroom is a very knowledgeable man. But yeah, I think that is where I'm going to end the stream. We're going to be doing probably another preview stream for both Rings of Power and House of the Dragon on Wednesday at about 7. So, and by 7, I mean 7 p.m. U.S. Central Time. But yeah, I don't know, Mystery Junkie. I won't lie. I wasn't paying that much attention. I was just trying to look for what Glossy was talking about in the trailer. But yeah, thank you guys all for watching the stream. It's unfortunate that episode 3 was not as good as a lot of us was hoping it was going to be, but hopefully episode 4 is better. And I will see you guys in the coming videos. Also, none of you guys told me my hair was messed up. God, guys, what are we doing? But yeah, I will see you guys all in the next stream or video.